Hey guys, what's going on? Tyrauku here, and I hope you're all doing great. So first off, let's go ahead and talk about the change of scenery. I'm not sitting down, clearly. I'm not as tall as a window or a door in the background, but I did get a standing desk as of today. Yesterday, actually, got shipped. I got it set up. I'm trying it out. So far, I'm liking it, but I've literally only used it for a few hours, so I don't really have much of an opinion on it yet. Now, obviously, I don't have a green screen in the background yet either. However, if you guys are like, well, Ty, if you ain't got a green screen, then how are we going to see the Masters of the Champions whenever you're working on them? Huh? Wasn't a very good idea of you to get a standing desk, was it? Well, wait a second. Look at this. Change the lights in the background. Boom and boom. Now you can see Giant Slayer. You can see all the masteries I have on my champions with just the flick of a switch. Oh, you want this thing to be red in the background? Yeah, I can do that too. But red makes me look like I'm a little angry, and it probably makes the neighbors think there's some kind of cult activity going on if they look down and they see the window, everything's lit up red in my room. So I'm going to stick to the blue, at least for now. Even though I'm wearing a blue shirt, maybe blending into the background, but hey, it is what it is. Sorry about moving away from the mic. Hopefully it was picking all that up. But either way, today what I want to talk about is, and let me know what you guys think. Should it be a green screen, or do you care about a background? Or would you just say, hey, turn the camera off. I don't care what you do. But today, all this aesthetics aside, I want to talk about a Go Second team that had actually been shown to me basically in Grimmy's account. I jumped on that on stream. I was going through some 3v3s, and this team actually was pretty cool. And the thing about this team is it's using Razin, who's a free fusion champion, right? Which definitely fuse him if you haven't already. He's definitely a good champion and you want to fuse him. Brogni, which was a fusion champion, may not be, he's not anymore, so you may or may not have him, but hopefully you do. But he was accessible. It was kind of difficult to get, I believe. And then Brago, who's also a fusion champion, who was a fusion champion. And then we use Sandlash, but I also found a very good reason to use Seeker as well in this team. So both of these champions work out very good. Seeker, I do have in a shield set. Now I'm going to go through these champions real quick, kind of give you an idea of what they're wearing, kind of like an idea of how I would use them. Now with Razin and Brago, Razin and Brago. I get Brago and Brogni messed up. Their names are so similar. But these two champions are the damage dealers for this team. Now, they're not in... Oh, you can't see it. I had to change this real quick. So we're going to temporarily use the green screen. All right. So they're not in damage dealer masteries right now. So Brago has War Master. I think a lot of people, if you're using the Clan Boss, you're going to have War Master. He does work. You're going to want Helm Smasher or Flawless Execution, whichever one, preferably Helm Smasher, depending on where your crit damage is at. But if you can't get it, it's not the end of the world, but he does do some pretty good damage, so you definitely want him to hit him pretty hard. Now, I don't have him booked at all. If you get him booked, obviously he's going to do quite a bit more damage, but he is a book hog, requiring a lot more books than I currently have. Razin is in Swift Parry gear. Now, if you really want him to do the max amount of damage, throw him in Savage, get his mastery set up the correct way. He's in Giant Slayer right now. I would take him into Helm Smasher, use him like that. I know a lot of people maybe use him in Clan Boss. My Razin doesn't get a ton of use, and this team is very, very good against Blenders, but I already have a pretty good answer for Blenders being Necrit. But I think this is a lot more accessible team. I think a lot of people are going to find good use in it. I know when I was on Grimmy's account, I like this team a lot, to be honest. I thought it was pretty successful, and I feel like it's pretty accessible. So it's successful and accessible. So a lot of tongue twisters there almost. But let's go ahead and jump in the arena. I'm going to kind of give you guys a breakdown of who's geared and what. Before we do that, let me show you Brago or Brogni real quick. 78,000 HP. He has an ability, A3, which very, very well scales up his HP. So I want him to be in a shield set. I want him to have a lot of HP. I also want him to be pretty fast, so we can place that block debuffs as well as the shield on all my allies as quickly as possible. This is an amazing team against Blenders because whenever an ally is under shield buff is attacked, it reflects 25% of that damage back onto the attacker. Now that's not just if it's under his shield buff. It could be under any shield set, anything. So it doesn't matter. If you're under shield set, perfect. It still reflects the damage, so that's why it's so good against Blender teams. Now, since we don't need the green screen anymore, let me go ahead and turn this back to blue, and there we go. We're ready to rock and roll. The arena, let's go ahead and see some options. Now, this is a little bit lower into Gold 4, okay? My champions aren't geared to like the top tier of arena anyways, so it's gonna be a pretty decent comparison, I think. They're geared decently, and I'll show you guys their stats in just a little while, but they're geared decent. They're just not geared amazing. Now, when it comes to any type of go second team, the biggest thing you got to watch out for is, well, a pretty big thing to watch out for is Madame Saras's or decreased defense. You gotta be careful with it, especially when you're using a team that relies heavily on defense. If you're getting your defense decreased, you're hitting not as hard, and two, you're taking even more damage, right? Granted, your defense was pretty high to begin with. Now, if you're using Sandlashed, you want to make sure she's in the back of the team, because how her passive works, it's if an ally takes damage that takes them below 50% HP, then she activates ally protection and block damage on everybody. Now, if she's in the back, basically Razin takes damage, he drops below 50% HP, Sandlash procs her passive on everybody, block damage, good to go. However, if you were to switch this, then she takes the damage first, he takes the damage second, third, fourth. So what happens is Sandlash could just die, okay? And these people could actually take the damage where she would proc her ability, but since the damage is calculated in this specific way, she won't proc the ability in the correct order. So her in the back allows, if Razin drops below 50% HP because of a big nuke, now you do want to make sure he survives, because I'm pretty sure if he dies, it doesn't actually proc this ability, at least if he dies from a single target hit especially. So against like Rotos, Sandlash isn't amazing. I personally prefer Seeker, but I know a lot of people have Seeker locked out to their clan boss team. So if he is, you can use Sandlash perfectly fine. Now, honestly, I think you could probably even use Ursuga. Any champion who can soak a lot of damage, maybe even Helior. I don't know about him, but any champion who can soak a lot of damage or like takes damage off your allies works out very well. I have her in Bulwark Mastery. You can't stack Bulwark. So if you have Bulwark on one champion, there's no reason to get it on anybody else. So as you can see here, I don't have it on him, I don't think. Okay, good, I don't. I do have it on her. I do have it on my Seeker, so that's all I really need it on. If you have it on anybody else, it doesn't stack, unfortunately. Let's go ahead and jump in here. Now, this team does have a Provoke, which is pretty annoying. Now, my Brogni, daggone, the dwarf dude has shield set. Now, against this team, he would actually be better off in immunity, and I'm almost considering just rebuilding him in immunity for this. But then that brings in the issue of, what about who's going to put this shield up then? Because Sandlash can't really wear a shield set. She has too low of base HP, so the shield set's pretty pitiful, pretty puny. Razin's not going to wear it. Brago's not going to wear it, so it leaves the question, who's going to wear it? Brogni's the best option. Now, you could wear a shield set with good HP and stack his resistance, especially if Razin's the leader, because like as you can see there, as you saw there, we did resist Umbral's Provoke. So if you're planning to resist like Kymars, maybe even Umbrals, Warlords, in like a lower tier of arena, you don't need as much resistance as you need to resist a Madam whose sole goal is to probably be the third in line, and she doesn't have to be super fast and just stack a ton of resistance. If you're going against like an Arbiter plus Warlord, Arbiter plus Kymar, they're going to be fast and they're going to need high accuracy. It's very difficult to gear super fast and super accurate, so it just depends on what you want to use this team for. If you want to use this team specifically against blenders, I think it's a good idea to stack massive amounts of just HP, shield set on Brogni. But if you're going to use this team against, say, a lot of Hegemons, maybe even Warlords and Kymars, then maybe take your Brogni, put him in an immunity set. Well, not against Warlords, because Warlords can still go through it, but against Kymars, it works perfectly fine. Against Warlords, you would need immunity plus high resist. The reason why I don't say necessarily only go high resist is because if an enemy is wearing like a stun set, a provoke set, or anything like that, you won't be affected by any of those debuffs that apply from that, because those debuffs don't require accuracy to actually land. So you do have to keep that in mind when you go against teams like that. Now, this one here, Tormund's, you could do this if you had higher resistance on Brogni. Right now, I don't have crazy high resistance on Brogni. We have 196. Let me go in here real quick, actually, and see if I can change his banner to give him a little bit more resistance. I might lose some speed when I do this. He's wearing defense, but I got that just, okay, look, we got a, okay, this is actually perfect. So we'll do this. We get 90, oh, that's accuracy. That's not resistance, okay? Let me go ahead and see some resist here. We have absolutely nothing for the dwarves, so never mind that option. No, this actually works out pretty good. We lose a little bit of HP, but we get reaction, chance for it to proc, so go second team, reaction gear is always good. Let's see if we even resist this stuff. We probably honestly won't resist this Tormund, and we'll probably get provoked, but if we do resist, it's gonna be pretty good. Now, Astralon may actually kill himself, or may actually get pretty close to it. We're not resisting the Astralon either, so this is a situation where you would want to have a little bit higher resist. If I brought in Seeker instead of Sandlash, we'd do much better surviving against this, but this kind of comes down to what teams are you attacking. Now, this team going against blenders is very good in 3v3 because a lot of people in 3v3 like to set blender teams, which is an arbiter plus an ally attack champion plus like typically Skullcrown and Sinesha. They love to set those champions on their defense, which is actually a terrible defense to set, but you'll see it more often than not that people do set that. It's an easy team to select when you run a team like this one. We can also go against, let's see who we have here. We're staying away from the Torment teams just because, like I said, we're not running super high resistance. If I was going to try to go against the Torment teams, I'd probably want to get to like where I'm at. I could gear up to, without struggling too much, probably like 400 resistance before calculating in Rosin's aura. Now, we did get smacked this just now by Kandrafon. We do have that Swift Parry proc from Rosin, which obviously if we didn't have Swift Parry proc, it would have been game over for Rosin. He'd be down for the count. We did get the Swift Parry proc, so we're good to go there. Now, I can show you guys the same thing if I had Seeker in there, how big of a difference it would make. So we can see here, Rosin would have died for sure. Let's go ahead and just test this out. I think we could have still killed that team just now, but I want to go ahead and show you what difference Seeker makes when he's in the leader, okay? So Seeker up there, everybody's going to get increased defense. Seeker just synergizes so well with his team, and honestly, even if you're using Bat Eater, I think this actually still works out perfectly because really Seeker's main goal is just to apply that increased defense, right? It's like nobody even took any damage at all. Rosin's good to go. Everybody's clean. Clean and clear, not a problem whatsoever. Sandlashed is great for mitigating damage, but she does struggle sometimes, especially if they have a real hard-hitting champion or something like that. Now, another option is still, you can use Seeker in the first spot, Sandlashed in the back spot, and then you're good to go there as well. But Brogni really brings a lot with those shields, helps you sustain throughout the match, because if you don't one-shot him, Brogni helps keep you alive, keeps those shields applied, and overall, he's a very, very good champion, but he's not required necessarily. All these champions in this team can be basically swapped in and out, but they all synergize very well together. Defense-based, big shield, solid champion in general, removable shield or unremovable shields. Seeker places increased defense whenever an ally is attacked with a critical hit, has a increased defense aura. Sandlashed also protects everybody whenever they take damage, like we mentioned before. Brago increases allies' defense based on his passive, so based on 10% of his total defense, which is very nice. So these champions all synergize very well together in this team, and there's so many different build options. If you're having a hard time with blenders and you need a solid option, because the worst thing to do, especially in 3v3, or something that's not very smart, is to try to win the speed battle against blender teams, especially if you're not super fast, because you could use that speed battle on one of your teams where you know for sure you're going to win the speed battle, right? Like maybe take your fastest team against maybe their slowest team, and then take a team like this against their blender, and then boom, you're already winning 2 out of those 3 matches, which is all you need to consistently move up from week to week in 3v3. Now, I know not everybody's a huge fan of 3v3, but you do want to focus on it for CVC, for getting Drexstar fragments, for just in general, 3v3 is a solid game mode for collecting rewards and getting stuff throughout the game, right? Now, this team is not a fast team at all, obviously, so we're going to win here. We have good provokes from Brago, the Orc. We have good provokes from the Orc, good CC in general. Sorry if my mic is peaking. It looks like it just blasted, so hopefully if you're an earbud wearer or headphone wearer, that didn't just destroy your eardrums. Let's go against this team. This is a pretty good example here. Now, we're going against teams that have lower player power than me. Not a huge deal because resistance is a big factor into that. Crit rate, also a big factor. We'll put Sandlash back into here and show you guys how she does. But here, another team, if Monster would have placed his stun, it could have been bad news for me. He didn't. So it's kind of showing you how resistance could be pretty impactful. Now, remember, a lot of these DPS champions, like Miscreated Monster, their accuracy is not going to probably be insanely high, right? Like if you're running 400 resistance before the aura, you're going to resist a majority of Miscreated Monsters. Even Lyssandra's, it's very difficult to get Lysandra super high accuracy. So if you got Brogni to 400 resistance, you're going to be sitting pretty good. But you got to take into consideration, how are you going to build Brogni? Who's going to take your shield set? You can put Sandlashed in a shield set, have her HP percentage boots on as well, because she doesn't really have to go perfect, a blender team. She doesn't really have to take a turn, but if she does take a turn, that's even better, right? But she doesn't have to. She's just there to soak the damage. These 3 are where all your damage is coming from. Both these doing solid damage. Brago, given the increased defense from his ability that actually really does a lot of damage. So here, let's go ahead and see what happens here. We're going to use Sandlash to give you an example. I definitely think everybody can survive with Sandlashed. Now, pay attention to the HP of their nukers, okay? So I'm turning down to 1 time speed. You guys can't see that because got it hidden. So she took a little bit of damage, not actually a ton, honestly less than I was expecting. Rosin got saved by the swift parry. Now, when I was on Grimmy's account, he was talking, I was seeing that his Rosin kept dying. So I said, hey, maybe you put him in stalwart gear. He might survive a lot longer. And he did end up making a swap, just like my Brago is currently. And they do survive a lot longer, right? Stalwart reduces the damage you take from AoE abilities. If you're going against Blender teams, that's specifically what it counters. They're not going to kill you. 9 times out of 10, they're not going to kill you. Had we had Seeker in here instead of Sandlashed, we would have taken even less damage than that because of the increased defense. Also, having Seeker, which personally I think he's the better option because he just brings so much other synergies, being the good defense aura plus the increased defense. And honestly, like I said, even if you're using him in Bad Eater, I think he's still a pretty legit option. But against this team, we have a Stagnite who does apply decreased defense, but it's not going to be a big deal because we're going to counteract that with our Seeker applying increased defense. Now, with Seeker, you want to make sure he's in the leader. I mean, obviously because he has the very, very good aura, but also because where Sandlashed works opposite of Seeker, basically. When Seeker gets hit, if he gets a crit landed on him, he's going to apply increased defense to everybody on your team, and they're all going to get the damage mitigation from that turn. So if you can just test it out yourself, put Seeker in the back of the line versus the front of the line and see which one your team actually survives better with, okay? So Seeker, you always want him to be as close to the front as possible, preferably in the front spot. And this is a very, very good buff to have. I mean, the only thing this is weak against is things like Gerp Tuck, Ugo, who places block buffs on your team. Those are a problem, okay? But if you're not going against that, you're perfectly fine. And you can use him in this front spot and your team will do very, very well. This team's a very, very tanky team. Solid team to put on your defense for 3v3 as one of your slower go second teams, right? Because you plan on this team going second. The only downfall is there's no res champion, okay? So you can't really keep up sustain. So maybe if you're using it on defense, I would probably throw somebody like Syl the Drakes on the team as well, because she can do decent damage, has decent sustain. And if your team's not one-shotting them, she can maybe keep stuff rolling. Now, it's going to be more of an annoying thing. It's not going to be the fastest farm if you're using it as your offense strategy. If you're using this as your offense strategy, you should definitely, if this is your main offense strategy especially, you should definitely make sure Rosin as well as Brago have enough hard-hitting good gear on them so that they can one-shot or basically one-shot or really make a big dent in the enemy their first turn, right? My champions right now, their masteries aren't perfect, so they're doing the damage, but they're not doing as much damage as they could be. I could take Rosin out, put my Solus in, and it's going to do a lot different, okay? My Solus is built, let's see how Solus is built. So where Rosin has 2,700 defense right now, let's see what Solus has. Let's bring in the big boy Solus. He has 5,300 defense, and he's pretty slow. But let's bring in the heavy hitter, and I'm going to just show you guys what the difference makes when you actually bring a correctly geared damage dealer versus Rosin, who's not really maximized. He was in the Swift Parry. I was testing him out in the arena before, but I always want to give you guys some stuff to work on, some things to play around with in your account, because I imagine a lot of you do have these champions. So Solus just took it right down. Keep in mind, there's no decreased defense on the enemy team. Ideally, you work through them pretty well without that. You do have Brago, who can place provokes on the enemy as well. So keep that in mind. If you want to gear him with accuracy, perfect. He does have that option, which is very, very solid. Let's see. Obviously, Solus is going to wreck Syl the Drakes. Let's go ahead and check what Brago. So this team right here, we can actually probably beat this team as well, especially with Solus. Let's see. Let's see about Brago, though. He places Provoke on his A3, attacks all enemies, Provoke and decrease attack, places a 50% decrease attack debuff on all enemies for 2 turns if Iron Brago is under increased defense, which with Seeker he will be, has a 50% chance, which books up to 75% chance to place Provoke for 1 turn, which is very, very good in the arena, especially if they don't have any buffs on them, preventing you from placing those debuffs, which this dude, Brogni, which you guys may have heard of before, he's got a ton of popularity in the clan boss, but he attacks all enemies, has a 75% chance of removing 1 random buff from all enemies, which it could be removing immunity, block debuffs, something that's actually pretty valuable. Now, this team's going to be super annoying. They're going to be super tanky, but honestly, this one I probably wouldn't even go against. I'm just going to do it for the video. I mean, we're 20 minutes in. If you've watched it this far, hopefully you guys are enjoying this. Hopefully you're getting some value from it. Hopefully maybe you try to use this team against blenders yourself, maybe in 3v3, especially where I think it's very, very good is in 3v3. because so many people are running blenders, and this just works so well against blender teams. I'm going to refresh it a few more times and see if I can find some. Solus is just taking a beating right now. He also is giving a beating as well, and he has a massive shield. Maybe Solus and Brogni are just a match made in heaven. His massive shield, because he whenever he attacks, he gets a big shield from his A3 ability, but he's not as free to play as Rosin is. So we're going to use Rosin, continue it out from here on. But you can substitute other defense-based DPS champions in for Rosin over here. Brago, not so much. I mean, I did mention you can use a lot of different substitutions for this team. The idea of it stays the same, but Brago does bring the extra defense based on his total defense. So do keep that in mind. Brago, less of a change. Sandlash and Seeker, you can swap in and out. Solus, Rosin, whoever you may have as a defense-based nuker, you can swap in and out as well. You can maybe use Drexstar if you want a chance of applying some burns. You got a lot of different options for the team you can use. Okay, this is another blender team right here. They have Atlanticus doing the ally attack, Skullcrown and Biggin. Let's go ahead and see. Let's do Seeker, okay? Well, let's do Sandlash. We've done Seeker already. There's no increased defense from Solus. Let's just use Rosin. Just to give you guys make the point that Rosin does work pretty well. Like you see though, my Rosin has pretty low total defense, which is why he takes an absolute beating against teams like this, right? Sandlash didn't even proc her ability. Rosin just got nuked down, absolutely obliterated. Brago did just now trigger it. Like I was saying, if an ally gets one shot like that, Sandlash does have issues sometimes proccing her ability, as we can see firsthand right there. If we use Solus though, it would have been a much, much different story. Turn this on auto and see how it works. I'll take a step back. Let's go ahead and play around with the green screen a little bit. Oh, look. Aha. Boom. Green screen on. Now, it does look a little bit weird. You can see the outline of my ceiling back there. But hey, it's a light up green screen. So I guess we're going to have to make do. We'll figure out what I'm going to use. If I'm going to keep this lighting, the mood lighting in the background, or if I'm going to switch back to an actual green screen. We got all kinds of options, though. I can do the baby blue. Never mind. No baby blue is an option. Boom, boom, boom. So that's what the option is back there right now. Like I said, Brago, he's a beast. I'll show you guys his stats. I'll show you guys all these champion stats before I get out of here. Sandlash isn't a frost set, just to be annoying. I used her on arena defense for a little while, and frost set, I was wanting to play around with it, see how well it worked. It does work out very well when they attack and they don't have block debuffs on. It works out perfect. If they do have block debuffs, it kind of sucks. It's not as good, obviously, because they can't get frozen, but it's a solid debuff to have, or a solid set to wear, I think. Where's another blender? Here's kind of a scuff blender. Like I said, you got to be careful. You can't really select Madame Ceres's. And Rays are also annoying just because of the fact that she does the not increased defense. She strips your team. Kind of sucks when that happens. So you got to be careful there as well. Let's go ahead and pick one more last team to go ahead and finish this video off right. There's not very many fast teams though, unfortunately. Hegemon, if you had more resistance, we could do that. This team, okay, this one's actually pretty good. So this team has no decreased defense. It's pretty low player power. That is what it is. They have two heavy nukers. So just for the sake of this, since they are going to hit pretty hard, we're going to use Seeker as well as Solus and just go ahead and see how this plays out. So Runda and Herndig can both nuke without decreased defense even applied. Okay, so the Herndig did apply decreased defense. Doesn't really matter because Seeker does increase defense to kind of counteract that, like I mentioned. So even if you're using him in your Bat Eater team, he works out perfectly fine here. And then once Solus actually gets a turn, he's just chugging along at 156 speed. But once he gets a turn, you better watch out because he's going to mess some people up if he ever gets a turn. Wait for it. Here goes. And boom. Okay, yeah. So he finished the 3 people off who were basically dead as it was. But there you go, guys. Let me know what you think about this video. I mostly just want to share that team. If you have any more questions about it, let me know down in the comments below. The team can definitely be customized to a lot of different ways, like I mentioned, being whether it's Under Priest Brogni wearing a shield set, whether he's in immunity, whether he's high resist. It just comes down to what teams you struggle against. Go second, okay? Now, Madame Ceres's are going to be a problem. You can, if you're going to go against Madame, you should probably just go high resist because immunity set's not even going to matter. Shield set's not going to matter. So just go high resist. You'll be going to be better off probably doing that. Maybe throw a shield set on Sandlash Survivor. But if you're going to go against Madame's, it's going to be a bad route probably anyways. But Sandlashed and Seeker both place their buffs and their passives after the enemy attacks anyways. So if you're using Seeker, it may counteract. Just be careful going against those decreased defense champions, especially the ones who strip. Brago building with a lot of defense. Honestly, I could get him to a lot higher defense than this, but I did want to keep some of his damage still on him. Rosin can be swapped out for really any defense-based nuker. Swift Parry isn't the set he has to be in. Honestly, I'd probably prefer him being in Savage gear with a lot more defense, looking like preferably my Solus. Solus, as you can see, worked out a lot better in this type of Go Second team. But overall, this team, I enjoyed it. I think it's going to work very well in Silver, maybe getting into Gold 1 3v3. And then obviously in Gold 4, probably in the lower ranks, it works very well. I don't think this team's going to be a top tier competitive team by no means, because there's definitely better options like Necrit, Seeker. Seeker and Necrit are champions I already used together, but there are better options than this team. But this one I think is a very solid option and a team that I would actually use as one of my 3v3 teams if I didn't have these upgraded options of it anyways. So guys, let me know what you think about this in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, if you made it to this point, I assume you probably did. Don't forget to leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and thank you all very much for watching. I'll catch you in the next video.